This is the Always Direct podcast, and we talk with movers and shakers of this world to learn about the ups and downs they went through to get where they are now. Let's get started with the show.
So hello, everybody. My name is John Rayon, and I am the host of the Always Direct podcast, where I talk to top movers and shakers in many different businesses and ask a lot of direct questions about their success journey. We're sponsored by a couple of different companies, and full disclosure, I am the president of both of them. So just want to let you guys know that. So paparayspizza.com. So if you're ever interested in running your own pizza business, I actually recommend paparays.com. It's got the home of the monster slice and delicious pizza, calzones, rib tips, wings, salads, and more. Also, if you have a small business in the U.S. and you need to market your business, alwaysdirectmail.com. Direct mail is still one of the most powerful ways to get your message across, and alwaysdirectmail.com specializes in the best demographics with the right message at the right time and giving you the best price possible. So now we also do merge the direct mail campaigns with digital marketing as well. So for the best results, go to alwaysdirectmail.com. Today, my guest is Laura Coe. She's one of the founders of Snapology. Snapology's mission is to provide educational play to children using Lego bricks, Kinects, computers, and other interactive mediums. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Wow. So I was doing a lot of research on your website, and you guys have pretty much exploded. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're happy. We've been able to spread Snapology to 156 locations. Just over 100 of those are in the U.S., and then the rest are international.
You know, I was watching a video on YouTube. I don't know what year it was, and it was you. You were just answering some questions. You're like, yeah. We're hoping to get, I don't know, about 100 locations, hopefully, or at least one in every major city. It was like such a humble dream, right? And here you are now telling me you have 156 all over the place and a lot of international ones, which is cool.
Yeah, it's funny. I watch that interview every once in a while and I kind of laugh. And I think that was only like maybe 5 years ago. It wasn't really even that long ago. But the first couple years we grew. It was nice. It was, 12, 15 a year. And then 2018 and 2019 were just incredible. And, if it wasn't for COVID, 2020 would have been, an amazing year as well. And we expect to jump right back into it in 2021 here. But yeah, we just hit our stride and, people recognize the importance of, teaching children STEM concepts through play,
Absolutely. I have 3 daughters of my own, and I'm a big, STEM it's everything. It's science, technology, engineering, and math. And then there's science, technology, engineering, art, and math. I don't know how the art got thrown in there, but I guess people were like, hey, where's the art? Let's put it in there. No, but I feel like the STEM is the real, I don't know, I could be wrong. Just tell me. My initial thing was like, why did they throw art in that?
It's funny, at first, I'm a mathematician by trade, so I sort of gravitate towards the math and science ends of it. And at first I was a little, kind of irritated, like, why do we have to throw art in there? But the reality is art was already baked into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, sometimes when people ask us to categorize our programs between what's science, what's technology, what's engineering, what's art, what's math, a lot of them are multiple, and art has always been baked into it, particularly with what we do, because we're working with, Lego bricks, we're working with Kinects, we're building and creative. I mean, there's an art aspect, to everything that we're doing. So, I'm not irritated with the A in there anymore. I understand why it's there.
No, I wasn't.
Really, they all kind of blend together. The key in my big sort of pet peeve when I talk to people who don't really understand what STEM or STEAM is more when they think it's just teaching kids math or teaching kids engineering or teaching them computer programming. We've been doing that for, decades.
Sure.
The difference in the power of STEM or STEAM is kids working together, the critical thinking, the problem solving, the collaboration, because, we've got all these brilliant kids graduating from college with engineering degrees and computer science degrees and all of these, even mathematicians, even the degree I had, but they don't know how to communicate with each other, particularly now with electronics and social media. They're texting each other instead of talking to each other. And when they get in a business environment, they're sort of missing some of those soft skills and in collaborating and realizing that, yeah, they're brilliant, but the guy beside them or the girl beside them is just as brilliant. And if they work together on it, they'd be 3 or 4 times as brilliant as the two of them could be alone. And so we're trying to teach children that at 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. So it's just ingrained in them that if they work together with somebody and they work on a team, they can get further faster.
I realized, well, that's interesting. And that you're damn right about that. I'll be honest with you. I mean, a lot of the most common basic interactions are being made awkward based off of the fact that they're just not used to talking to people. They want to do online ordering. They want to avoid the communication between other humans. And I think that's scary a little bit for me. I mean, I think for both of us, because we grew up at a different time, or we're like, wait a minute, hold on, you got to be able to, they're afraid of confrontation. They're afraid of resistance. Like returning something at Target is like a huge deal for my cousin who's like 18. I'm like, it's not a big deal. He's like, yeah, forget it. I'm like, it's $30. Go return it. Don't waste your money. But yeah, but what I don't understand is how does that help? Like I thought STEM was more working alone, actually. This is the first time I've ever heard this.
No, it's not. I mean, the whole idea of STEM and the whole sort of movement around STEM, and it's probably been about 12, 15 years since sort of the idea of STEM was created. And it was created here in the US. But the whole idea was you had all of these, great companies like, your Googles and your Microsofts and your GEs and all of these great companies who are employing STEM professionals. But their biggest complaint were the kids coming out of school didn't have those soft skills. They're brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant. And they're great engineers. They're great computer programmers, but they're missing sort of that socialization. And so the STEM movement was really in an effort to create sort of the collaboration, the problem solving, the critical thinking, sort of those elements, not just being able to write a great computer program, but being able to collaborate with somebody and work with somebody to take that to the next level, essentially. So yeah, that's because if you're just sitting down and working on your own, it's great, it's wonderful. And those types of programs, any education is great education, but really STEM and the idea is to prepare them for the working world, for real life. You don't work alone hardly at all, in your adult life.
So Snapology, it's an after school or not necessarily after school, but mostly after school program where the parents can they drop off the kids?
Yeah. So for anything that's a structured class, so we have after school classes, we've got evening classes, weekend classes, summer camps are enormous. We actually do birthday parties as well. So we do some of the more entertainment side of it as well. If it's a structured event, generally the parents can drop the kids off. We do have something called creative play, where the kids just basically come and explore and learn with different stations. Some of our locations have a brick and mortar, opportunity. And with those, we do ask the parents of children under age 5 to stay. But for the vast majority of our programs, the kids come, they do the program, parents, get an hour or 2 or 3 of, free time.
Yeah, I saw that. It's like $6. I think it was like $6 an hour. I was like, $6 an hour per kid? I'll take it.
Yeah, and rates vary a little bit across the country depending on where you live. But yeah, we try to make it affordable. I mean, even our classes are, 10 to 12 to up to $15 an hour in some of the, more urban areas. But, $10-12 in a city like Pittsburgh, for your kid to come and take an educational, program, they're having fun. You're, getting some free time. The kids are learning. It's kind of a, win-win all around.
So I love it. I mean, I think it's vital. I think it's awesome. Do you teach anything with coding? Not yet, or are you planning on anything with coding?
We do. So we have some coding programs, and we actually just recently, we're actually getting ready. We recently just negotiated an agreement with a company called Mighty Coders, where we're going to be partnering with them because they go a little deeper than we go. So we've always done coding with our robotics. And so when you take a robotics program at Snapology, you're not only learning general robotics, but you're also learning engineering and the basics of coding. And then it depends on what level you're at. And when we do robotics all the way down to 3 years old, at 3 years old, they're just sort of learning, kind of what programming is and that there are these steps and you hit play and it goes to the next thing. And all the way up to middle school where they're programming in parameters and how many degrees a wheel is going to turn and all of that kind of stuff. But we don't get into some of the more advanced languages. And so we're going to partner with this company so that we can take it kind of to the next level.
Great. That's great. Now I have a few more questions. I'm very interested in your business model because, there's Code Ninjas by us. There's a couple of other, I think STEM. Well, everybody says STEM. I looked into them. They're not really STEM. They're just like a kiddie academy that just threw a couple of connects in there and like they call it STEM. It's not. I know what STEM is because I had a good idea, a better grasp than most. When you have smaller kids, especially girls, I want all my girls to be engineers, honestly. Because we're all going to be working for Teslas and Googles and, so eventually, right? Unless they become entrepreneurs, but,
there's a shortage. There's going to be a shortage of men and women because those are the careers that are going to be in demand,
Well, there's nobody, first of all, I'm pretty sure that the percentages of people graduating in those degrees are massively dropping every year. Is that true?
I'd have to look and see, but yeah, they definitely have. The number that graduate, I think, have been dropping, and the actual positions, what we need is actually increasing. It's not moving the way way it should. Part of that may right itself. It's interesting because I think now is the first time that we're seeing colleges sort of level out their tuitions. And so I think, in the last couple of years, kids have been taking gap years, particularly this past year with COVID and even the year before. And more kids are going into trade schools or specialized schools because colleges are so expensive. But I think that with COVID, I think for the first time, we're seeing some leveling of tuition rates. Maybe that'll help and push more kids to the 4-year programs and some of these, STEM careers so that we can kind of fill that gap. But there's definitely a need for it for sure. And I fundamentally believe that starts at a young age, that when kids are elementary school age and even younger, when they get that confidence, when they're, putting toys together or when they're, playing around with, electronics or doing different things, when they have that fun experience and they have that, that confidence built because they were successful with it. I truly think that then leads them when they're in high school or in college and they're thinking about those things, they've had those positive experiences and it becomes a career that they can look into.
I agree. Every part of what you said, I agree with. I even told my wife many times that I wanted to create a school, which I would never do because I was a terrible student. But I wanted to have somebody create a school, like a school of practical knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Public speaking, negotiation, memorization, and then of course whatever is needed in the real life, which is coding, STEM, massive amounts of STEM. Doing calculations in your brain. You go ask anybody to get change from. I keep saying Target. You give them $30 and they're supposed to give you $7.17. There's no way the majority of people can figure it out anymore because they don't do calculations in their head anymore. They use a calculator, which is great, but it made us all a little bit soft in certain areas.
Yeah, it's funny. It definitely does. I mean, it's kind of like, signing your signature on a check. I mean, my kids don't know cursive. I mean,
they don't teach it anymore, do they?
They don't teach it anymore. Oh. Yeah, they won't be able to sign checks ever. Everybody will be writing an X on a check. You have 2 little boys, right? They're not so little anymore.
Oh yeah, they were little.
They were little when we started. They were 5 and 6 when we started, and now they're my younger son turns 16 next month, and my other son is 17 and in his senior year. So he's getting ready to head off to college.
Oh, wow. So it's been about 10 years since you started the company?
Yeah, this was 2020 was our big 10-year celebration.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think next year will be the 11 is the new 10, maybe.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, you know what? Tomorrow's my wife's 30th birthday, right? And so I'm like, I don't know what to do. I was supposed to throw you a surprise party. I mean, it's been 9 months, but I was thinking next year, like, I'm going to throw a nice surprise party. But anyway, so I would like to talk to you. By the way, I just looked up. I have a Snapology 41 minutes from my house. Too far, but 25. It's in McHenry, Illinois, right? That's the closest. You have one in the city of Chicago, and you have one in McHenry, Illinois.
Yeah, McHenry is actually a physical location. So they actually have a discovery center. Not all of our Snapology locations have a brick and mortar discovery center. The crux of our model is actually going into the schools, going into the rec centers, libraries, churches, you name it, whoever will have us, and offering the programs in existing, facilities and venues. But McHenry actually has what we call a discovery center.
You guys, what a model right there. I didn't realize that. It didn't seem like that when I was looking at your website. So the Discovery Center, obviously for selling franchises, but also to show what it does. Example, you can actually go in there. But you're telling me the majority of your franchises work with the community to go in where the kids are, as opposed to having the kids come to them.
Absolutely, yeah. So 100% of our owners, no matter where they are in the world, do the mobile programs, the community-based programs going into the schools. Some of them then choose, in addition to going into the schools, they choose in addition that they want to have a brick and mortar discovery center. And that's kind of like a cross between a hands-on children's museum and like a educational play center. So there's lots of Lego bricks and there's stations, there's, projection systems, that project on the floor. It's a lot of interactive activity, virtual reality, those types of things that they can play in. But we only have about a dozen of our 150 locations have a brick and mortar in addition to the community. But the foundation of our business is really that community model going to the kids.
Wow. I didn't realize that actually, I have a lot of more questions now. You just doubled up my questions because I love franchises. I love franchising. I franchise my restaurants. I know the stresses that can go into it. I know the headaches and the glories. So I want to talk about how long so when you first started out, did you create, you probably didn't even create a discovery section. You probably just started off as a mobile and then decided that you wanted to, in order to sell franchises, you kind of like needed to have one of those, or you needed something to show people.
Well, it's interesting because, we started out mobile for sure. We started out in, kind of a local recreation center here. And then very quickly, we were able to get into a couple schools. We really early on had a lot of parents kind of asking, where are you located? Where are you located? So we thought, maybe we should try to have a physical location where people could actually come to us. And, at that point, we weren't even franchising yet. So we're like, let's see if it works. So we got ourselves a little space. It was a cute little space. It was above a dentist's office. It was only about, it was less than 2,000 square feet. I mean, it was a pretty small space, but we, put a whole bunch of, educational play stations in there and had a party room and classroom, and it took off. I mean, it was amazing. And so we knew that piece of the model would work as well. But from a financial perspective for our franchisees and just business ownership, if you don't have to have a brick and mortar, I mean, our profit margins, are, double, because we don't have the overhead of the brick and mortar. But the brick and mortar, is profitable. It brings on a nice extra chunk. But not every business owner wants to have that extra level of responsibility or even capital investment.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Anything you can remove the physical location. I mean, that's the money saver. Absolutely. But so let's say I bought a franchise. I'm a franchisee right now. I'm in Streamwood, Illinois. I got 5-10 mile radius around my house. How do I, so then I buy the products. I have a storage facility where I keep everything nice and clean and organized. And then I go to like the churches and then how do I promote it? Like, how do I actually get people to go? If I'm moving around a lot, do I have a specific day of the month that I go every month, or does it constantly change?
It will change. It will vary depending on what your partners would like you there for. So, we basically try to be as flexible as we can to fit in with our business partners' needs. So we may have a school that only runs after school programs in the month of October. And so we'll be there, a couple days a week, for 4 weeks in October. We might have another school that runs after school programs the entire semester. And so we'll be there for all, 12, 15, however many weeks in the semester for them. So we have a very flexible and modular approach where we first work with the partner to find out what their needs are and what space they have. But generally speaking, we're in 8 to 10 different places a week, offering different programs, different places. So you might be able to come to a rec center or a church, or there could be multiple locations that are offering programs near you at any time.
Are you comfortable talking about finances of the franchise?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, cool. Because I don't know if you have the item 19 available or not. You do. Okay.
We have a 19. Yep.
All right, perfect. So what's the average revenue and margins for a franchise?
Yeah, so we have wide variability. So we've actually divided our item 19 between our part-time owners and our full-time owners, because one of the nice things about Snapology is that we offer an opportunity where, you could potentially keep another job and do Snapology on top of it. We have a lot of people who are just passionate about bringing these types of programs to their community, but don't necessarily want to spend 40, 50, 60 hours a week doing it. And so we kind of separate between our part-time owners and full-time owners. Obviously, our full-time owners, our business is very much you get out of it what you put into it. So
of course,
our full-time owners are making double what our part-time owners are. But a typical part-time owner, is the average, I think, is somewhere around $100,000 to $120,000 a year. If the profit margins are 40 to 60%. So you're bringing in, say, just to make the numbers easy, your $100,000 a year, you might be, taking home 50 grand of that because you have no overhead, or very low overhead. Then our full-time owners, we've got, I think the average is somewhere around the low 200s. We've got owners making up to $500,000, and we've got profit margins that are anywhere from, 20 to 40%. Depending on, payroll's our biggest expense. Obviously, the teachers going out to do the programs are the biggest expense, but it's a nice business. It's a $50,000 all-in investment that you can turn around and, make 50 to, 150 a year.
Yeah. What's the royalty structure?
Royalties are 6%. But we do put in some minimums, mostly because of those part-time owners. We don't want people taking territory and just kind of squatting there and doing nothing. So it's 6% with those minimums in place.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. The profitability is just maximized because of the fact that you don't have a physical location. And I'm assuming that when you start out, you really don't even have employees. You're probably just a one-man show for a while, because why would you? You gotta go out and do it yourself for a while to get used to it, don't you?
Well, we actually, unless we do have about 25% of our owners have an education background. So for those owners, we don't, necessarily have an issue with them going out and being the one that teaches. But you very quickly learn that, how you make money as a Snapology is to be in 10 different locations at once. And you yourself can only be in one place at once.
Sure.
And so we actually don't like our owners to teach for two reasons. Number one, they're not teachers. And so the children are going to have a better experience with somebody who's trained in classroom management, who's got that experience, working with children. And so if somebody comes to us and their background was that they were an engineer or they were an accountant, we really don't want them teaching per se. Number one, while that class is going on, they could be selling thousands of dollars worth of business instead of, being in a classroom, at that particular time. And so, we want them focusing on the marketing, the sales, and the hiring of teachers rather than teaching the programs themselves.
So you're saying right now that a majority of the people who are employees of the franchises have some form of teaching background?
So the owners themselves generally
Not the owners. I'm talking about the hire.
But yes, everybody, when a child steps into a Snapology classroom, they are being taught by somebody that has significant classroom experience. So they may not be a certified teacher, although I'd say probably 60 to 70% of our staff is, are certified teachers. But they likely, have, worked in daycares or worked in camps, or they have 2 to 3 years of classroom management experience. So they're, a big part of what we do. I mean, what we do is super fun, and that's what makes it great. But you still have to teach them. There's still that underlying piece of academic enrichment. Every single class we have has a blend of academic enrichment, social development, that's the problem solving and partnering and all that kind of stuff, and fun. So we need to have a blend of those 3 elements, and we need a teacher to be able to deliver that. So we need a teacher that's trained in classroom behaviors, that understands the dynamics between the kids, teams working together. They need to be able to deliver, academic, content and challenge the kids, and get them to sort of, stretch with their learning and those types of things.
And what about the age range? So is it one teacher per class based on the amount of students?
It's based on the amount of students. So generally speaking, our preschool programs have about 14 children in them. And we'll usually have one teacher in there. We may have an assistant in there. Our school age programs are just like you would see in a regular school. We generally have 20 children classes, and one teacher is more than qualified to teach 20 kids. They typically teach 24 to 26. And then we'll put in an assistant. We have a lot of, teenager, like high school age assistants that we'll put in. We'll put in an assistant where we need to. We love to have children that have extra needs in our programs. And so if we have programs where there are children that might have some extra needs, we'll, put in some assistance to make sure that everyone can be successful in the program.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your partner. Is she your sister or your cousin, friend?
It's my sister, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I saw a little resemblance, I think.
Yes.
So Laura, you start teaching these kids and having these organizing these events. And then you start to see, wow, I'm actually making pretty good money here. This is making sense. I can see this growing. I can see this being a business that is more than just myself. How long did it take before you decided to franchise? And how long did it take? And then did you ever decide, did you always have any friction as to whether or not you should franchise between you and your sister?
Yeah, it's interesting because we did not take a direct path at all. But I will tell you that our parents owned a business under a licensing model. So when we were growing up, when we were in high school, our parents owned a business through just a licensing model. It was completely unrelated to what we did. They actually made sinks out of cultured marble. But in any case, we kind of grew up with sort of that background. We knew what licensing was. We kind of understood the basics of that. So when we started, we kind of had aspirations that maybe someday we would expand the footprint. But really, when we started in Pittsburgh in 2010. We really, just sort of wanted to, kind of test the concept and see if it would work. We knew within 6 months it was going to work. It just took off. I mean, it was our first program. We opened up at a popular rec center here in our area. We were looking for 20 kids. We opened up registration within 2 days. We had 30 kids in a wait list. And so we knew that it was going to. So after 6 months, I actually started writing down and cataloging everything we were doing. And I started taking all of my files and organizing them to get ready for at some point so that we could expand.
Systems and procedures.
Exactly. It is now what is our operations manual. That was sort of the first phase of it. But interestingly, about a year in, we started having people come to us and say, hey, are you a franchise? I'm here visiting, insert relative. But I don't live in Pittsburgh, but I'd love to take it back to, whatever city they're in. And we started having a lot of people ask that question. And so, you know, my sister and I just sort of sat down and talked about it and said, look, are we ready? You know, can we do this? And so we had a woman in Ohio. We had a gentleman in North Carolina that are still with us, that were kind of our first folks to come on board. We actually started under a licensing model, and we grew to about 15 locations in a couple years under this licensing model. And then we, as we started to kind of, you know, get a little bit more sophisticated and start to, you know, get a more sophisticated lawyer involved. The lawyer was kind of like, why aren't you franchising? You shouldn't be licensing this. You should be franchising.
The three-legged stool. They didn't give me that.
Exactly. We were, I don't think we were violating franchise law. I think we really were licensing the way that our first contracts were kind of set up, but we were dangerously close to hitting that third leg of the stool and violating it. And it just, you know, it was the best decision we ever made. In 2015, we spent half the year developing the FDD. We couldn't sell until about August. But
so 2010 you started. So it took 5 years before you actually franchised.
Yeah. So in 2012 was the first year that we licensed anything. So 2012, 2013, and 2014, we grew about, you know, 15 locations or so.
Now, were you spending any money on advertising your franchises, or was this all word of mouth, or how did you go about selling licenses?
So we were doing very minimal advertising. In the first 5 or so, we did no advertising. But then we were like, okay, well now we've brought on 5 people. We kind of understand how to do this. I think we're ready to grow faster. And we did some basic stuff. For our industry, and I know every industry is a little bit different, but for our industry, we get a lot of parents. We get a lot of moms and dads who just really want this concept for their own kids. They're entrepreneurial. They want to start their own business, and this is just a good fit for them. So advertising in social media, you know, Facebook, Instagram, and mommy bloggers, like the influencer marketing, those have been phenomenal for us. And that's how we really sort of started was more organic SEO type things, and then the social media and that's really how we started to go. So, but we did spend money initially on it, but not near, you know, to the level that we're doing now. And of course, now we work with a lot of broker groups, and, you know, we're sort of, you know, all in at this point with franchise development.
Sure. Absolutely. And what kind of a team do you guys have currently? Like, how many people are working for corporate?
We've got about a dozen people on our corporate team, kind of divided into, we have our own in-house digital, I always say digital marketing, but it's just marketing team. We've got a couple folks on our curriculum team, because curriculum's obviously a huge component of what we do.
We're a school, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's, you know, really the crux of who we are is in our curriculum. And then, of course, our support. Got a couple of folks in operations, and then some folks on franchise development as well. So we've got, you know, a nice span of folks. We're very high touch. So we provide a lot of support. A lot of our franchisees are first-time business owners. And so we want to make sure that we're there for them, you know, kind of every step of the way.
So how often do you do site visits?
We don't do site visits.
Oh, you don't have sites to visit. Oh, you can go to the classrooms.
Yeah, we do a lot. So we probably are in touch with our franchisees at least once a month, if not 2 or 3 times a month. Our marketing team is in touch with almost all of them every month. We have a monthly town hall where we just get together. We've got a monthly marketing meeting that they can participate, and they don't have to participate. So it's, you know, they may come to some meetings and not come to others. And then we do outreach to them. You know, we reach out to them when we can. We've got, you know, a system where they can reach out to us for support. We've actually got an app that we use where they can support each other. We've got peer groups. We've got a franchise advisory council. I mean, we're very, very high touch, very collaborative organization.
How did you set all that up? I'm curious, because a lot of the people that we work with always direct mail, and also myself, we have a large network of people that we work with, we help out, we talk to, we communicate with. But So you're wearing a hat as a business owner, you and your sister, business owner, growing this business exponentially, technically. I mean, a lot. But also, so you got to handle sales, systems, operations, consistency, problems, headaches, technology. How did you, and plus all the things you just mentioned, how did you get that in place? Did you hire a company? Did you help? Did you spend a lot of money on getting it all set up? The website, the technology behind it, the communication portals, all the stuff that you just mentioned. How did you get all that together? Did you hire an outside company or did you do it organically, slowly?
I did it organically. We're a very grassroots organization, probably because I'm too cheap to hire anybody. But also, I hired a few people and I got taken. I mean, it wasn't what they promised. And so I became a little bit jaded and started thinking, you know what, I'm just going to build it myself and take it one step at a time. And so it's been a slow but steady evolution. And so, every year we're adding a little bit more. So, we really probably, we had a decent foundation when we started franchising 5 years ago, but each and every year we've added on different components, and just taken it to a different level each year. So, this past year, our marketing team added something called a marketing playbook that comes out every quarter. And so they upped their game this year that way. They've always done, a lot of, collateral, a lot of material for our franchisees, but now they've organized it and gotten better with it. So we really bootstrapped it. I mean, DIY, we didn't have the money, to be honest with you, to pay a company to tell us to do it. But my team is also very good about researching what the successful brands are doing. And I myself sit on, and I know my marketing team sits on as well, a bunch of franchisor round tables. And so, we get together with groups of other franchisors who are having the same struggles we are. And inevitably somebody on there had that struggle and solved it. And we give each other advice. And so, I'd love to say I came up with all of these things and I was the brains behind everything. But the reality is some of it, I just listened to what somebody else did and said, oh, wow, that was really great advice, and it's companies that, it's Wild Birds Unlimited. It has nothing to do with education, but they're on the call and they give good advice. Or sometimes it's people in our same industry, the tutor doctor people are on there and give advice. And so just every year we just keep trying to improve it and make it more efficient for us as a franchisor, but also better for the franchisees.
Absolutely. I love that. Masterminds, basically masterminds.
Exactly. Little mastermind groups. Yep.
Yeah. Believe it or not, I've just been introduced to masterminds recently in the last 2 years. And I'm like, what masterminds? It just sounds weird. Then I'm talking to all my, really anybody I know that's really doing very well, they're on 2 or 3 of them. And I said, well, there goes my idea. My opinion obviously was wrong because it obviously is working, right? So
yeah. Well, and I think they're working better now because I used to be on mastermind groups that you actually had to travel to New York City and meet with everybody. Now that everybody's so comfortable with Zoom, everybody just gets on a Zoom every Tuesday or whatever. And if you're available, you're available. If you're not, you're not. But you usually get 15, 20 people on there exchanging ideas.
Yeah. Zoom is, well, this whole COVID is kind of weirded us out. Are you guys, well, 2 things. I was going to ask you, your franchisees, what's their average marketing budget that you recommend specifically for the first couple of years? And then the second part of that is, how has COVID affected your franchisees? And are you guys struggling at all, or have you guys coped with it? How have you dealt with the whole situation?
Yeah, I'll answer the marketing one first because that one's a little more pleasant and a lot easier to answer.
Yeah.
The marketing budgets are actually fairly low for us because the 2 best ways for us to reach our customers are word of mouth, which is free, and email, which is almost free. We have costs a little bit, but almost free. So top 2 ways to reach our customers are free. And the third way is essentially social media, which isn't free. but is reasonably priced. So most of our owners are spending, we like them to spend between, we like to spend up to 5% of their income on it. I would say realistically, most of our owners probably spend maybe 2 to 3% of their income. But, even if you're spending, $300, $500 a month, that gets you a long way with our business. And we're working with schools. So before an owner even comes to training, we load our operation system with every single school, the principal, the vice principal, the PTA contacts in those schools. They come to us. They can literally, from training, before they even start their business, send a blast email to every single business partner in their territory to let them know that they're there and you can operate business. And for most of our school operations, it's email that you're doing. It doesn't cost you a dime to advertise to get a school. The other stuff is really direct to consumer, to direct to the parents.
So you buy a list for them and you get them all set up before they even open the doors with the marketing, the contacts.
Yeah. So we bought basically a list of every single school in the United States. And then I have a freelancer that actually goes out and combs the internet and finds principal, vice. Sometimes they have to go to Facebook to find it. Sometimes it's on websites. So you have to have a person that goes out there and finds it. But we have a freelancer that goes out before every owner comes to training and does all of that, hours and hours of research to find, because every owner that comes with us, they get at least 100 schools. And then there's preschools on top of that could be 50 to 100 preschools too. So for 150 to up to 250 contacts, we've got a freelancer spending hours and hours going out there and finding, who to send the email to.
Yeah.
Now, the second question, COVID, yes, we are impacted. Who would have ever thought that schools would close down? But they did. And so March and April, when the school shut down, we had, hundreds of thousands of dollars between all of our owners booked in school programs. That's prime field trip season. I mean, we had a lot of money that just, went off the table. But my leadership team was amazing. So, at the end of even middle February, towards the end of February, when the very first school closed, we knew that we had to do something. And so my marketing team got right on it. My curriculum team was phenomenal. They started taking our curriculum and converting it to be able to be delivered online. And I think we've all learned this year that online learning is much more difficult than it seems. And so our curriculum that's meant to be in person, kids working together, we were able to use substantially the same sort of teaching tools, but we had to convert it to be able to keep the children engaged. You're talking about keeping a 7-year-old engaged for an hour online. You've got to be, excited. And so we had to, kind of change around what we did. But within 2 weeks, we had 60 hours of online curriculum that our owners could offer. And so we launched all of those programs. We moved to an online model. And also we launched this incredible, we doubled our social media following in the first month of COVID because we offered these daily building challenges. They were free and parents would log into Facebook every morning. We'd have a challenge for the day. They'd give their kids a challenge. It would keep their kids busy for hours. And then the parents could take a picture of what the kid built. And then the child had a chance to win something every single day with it. And so we had kids, entering, we had hundreds of kids in each location entering these building challenges. And we, again, more than doubled our following because of that. So that wasn't money that we were bringing in, but it's a bigger customer base now that our franchisees have to, sort of jump off from as we go forward. So, we've done the best we can. We're about 60%, 2020 versus 2019. So, we took a good, kind of sucker punch. But our competitors are almost at zero. They did nothing. And so, and a lot of them, are going out of business. And so, individual franchises, which I hate to see, any small business owner struggle or go out of business. but their franchisor failed them. They had no solution for them. And some of them didn't come up with solutions until fall, and they just kind of left their owners hanging from March to, September. And so
they probably just couldn't believe it's still going on. I mean, if you would have said in March, then 9 months later, we'd still be going through this and maybe even getting worse. And California shutting down outdoor dining. I would have told you that you needed to go to the 5th floor. Something's wrong.
Yeah. I didn't think it was going to last till summer. I was like, by summer we'll be fine. Who knew? I mean, it was crazy. And our owners, they were the same way. Some of them were like, I'm not going to do online. I'm just going to wait it out. It's just going to be a couple months. But the owners that embraced the online programs and got on it did 3 times as well during COVID as the owners that kind of took that, I'm going to wait and see approach. I mean, I think COVID has in general been a story of who adapted, and I think as people look at franchises and look for opportunities, whether they're in my industry or your industry or whatever industry, I think a big question should be, what'd you do during COVID? What a franchisor decided to do during this time is a reflection of how they handle stress, how they react, how they help their franchisees. It's kind of like you see people's true colors in crisis, right? Yeah. And so for our industry, I mean, it wasn't ideal. I mean, I don't want to be at 60% of where I was last year, but I like 60% a heck of a lot more than I like 0.
Amen. Absolutely. You know what? When COVID hit, so the pizza businesses they're actually doing really good because we don't have dining rooms. We're fast casual, no dining rooms, maybe 4 or 5 tables, 6 tables maximum, and most of them do not have any. We're actually opening a new location currently. We didn't decide to open until in the middle of Corona. So, and then right away, I got myself. This is just a personal thing. I got myself a personal trainer because I was getting a little thick, and I didn't see Corona as helping. And then I started this podcast all in during the coronavirus. Now, if I didn't do all that, it would be, I mean, I would probably be, it's just hard to ignore the depression that's all around you. I go past all these big malls and just empty and everything's so weird. You have to stay busy and you have to keep hustling and you have to keep working. Otherwise you just fall into you get the blues real quick. If you watch the news and you see what's happening, you got to stay active. You got to keep moving. 60%, great for you.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I've never been busier. I mean, my headquarters team, I think we've worked, 3 times as hard this year as in any other year because we had to hustle to kind of make everything work. I sit and I see some of these people posting how they need to get out of the house and they're so bored and all. I'm like, man, I wish I had a day that I was bored. I feel like it's just, always trying to figure out how to make it work and what are the ideas we still got another couple months of this, and we've got to ride it out and figure out how to do, how to make the best of it.
What, January, February, March? So yeah, probably April. What are you thinking? April?
I mean, that's what they say. I mean, they say that everybody who wants the vaccine should be able to get it by April. So I would think once a vaccine is widely distributed, I mean, that's what I'm hoping for. To be honest, the way our seasons work, I mean, April would be great, except, our revenue, kind of slows down. Like May's one of our slowest months,
Sure. Summertime, vacations, people out of school. Or getting out of school at the end of the year. Yep.
Exactly. So my eye is 100% on next summer. Next summer can sort of revive. It's kind of our relaunch. It's going to revive a lot of our owners. They could, there's been such a pent up demand now. I mean, parents, quite honestly, just want their kids out of the house. I mean, parents are going to be sending their kids to summer camp. Because number one, there's a bit, they call it the COVID slide in education, because this year's been really tough on kids. I mean, it's probably been even harder on teachers, but it's been tough on the educational system and it's been hard. Kids are backsliding and they're not getting the enrichment that they normally get. And so getting them in summer camps that are fun and academic is going to be more important next year than in any other year, because you don't want your kids to hate school. You want your kids to like school. And that's what Snapology does. Our programs create that thirst for knowledge. They create that, sense of, curiosity and the hunger to learn new things. And so, this is a tough year on everybody, and kids are going to need that type of environment. And in the next school year, I think enrichment programs will be super popular as we go into next year, because the kids are just going to need that extra boost.
Yeah, I agree. I think next year is going to be, as soon as it's over, or at least calm down, restaurants, travel, hotels, and anything to do with education is going to be huge. I agree.
Yeah. There's so much pent up demand. I mean, how many people are just dying to go out and sit in a restaurant again and feel normal, or a movie theater or a bowling alley or
movie theaters. They're all shutting down. I heard, like, a lot of them are shutting down. Like,
yeah. Well, there's no new movies. They haven't been making movies. So when you go to the movies, I guess there are some new releases coming out here for the holidays, but it's not like, I mean, before there's a new movie every single week. There's just, so you can go to the movies, but you're, seeing old movies at it. So it's just tough. I feel bad for that industry. I mean, there's a lot of industries that just, as creative as they can be and as much as they want to adapt, there's just not a whole lot they can do. And that's kind of one of them.
Definitely. Large space, and lots of cost overhead. That's what I love about your concept, by the way. I didn't realize that when I was looking, it doesn't really, maybe I didn't read enough of it. Maybe I was just like looking, maybe I was more visually looking at it as opposed to reading the details, but this is smart. I like what you're doing here. And I wish you continued luck in your business. And I know you're going to have a fantastic 2021. Everybody talks about, I do a lot of podcasts lately, and everybody's like, 2020, I'm like, listen, don't even talk about 2020. When I say how's life, how's business, I'm talking pre-2019 and before, and then after. What's it going to be? This is like a black hole, this past 9-10 months. It's been crazy.
Yeah. But, I think a lot of people want to pretend 2020 didn't exist.
Oh, my gosh. Well, listen, Laura, I appreciate you jumping on the call with me and getting on this podcast. You have been more than awesome. I've learned a couple of things, and I know that anybody who listens to this will as well. Couple of things I'm just going to point out. What I really liked was bootstrapping, doing it yourself. Don't get jaded. Just get even. Go find out how to do it and do it yourself. Keep your overhead down. That's huge. Try and keep your overhead down as much as possible. If you can avoid having a brick and mortar store in any business, you should. And whenever the going gets tough, you better adjust real quick and don't wait too long, because you don't know how long it's going to last, and don't think that it's going to go away fast. So I give you a lot of credit for that. I thank you for coming on. Everybody who's listening, go to snapology.com. And if you're interested in opening a franchise, you know who to go to. All right. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I really appreciate it. It was great to talk to you.
Definitely. You too. Thank you, Laura.
Thanks for listening to the Always Direct podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.